Good evening. It is 5:33 on Wednesday, December 9th, 2015, the last meeting of the Urbana Human Relations for the calendar year. Could we please have a roll call?
Francis Rigberg Baker,
Here.
Kevin Bowersox Johnson,
Here.
Daniel Larson,
Here.
Janice Mitchell,
Here.
Lisa Mosley,
Here.
Peter Resnick,
Here.
and Aisha Lam Sobe.
Excellent, thank you. Looking over tonight's agenda, are there any additions, edits, corrections that need to be made? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. Looking over the minutes from last month's meeting, are there any additions, edits, corrections that need to be made? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Alrighty, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are moving along. Public participation, seeing none, hearing none. We have no old business, so let's jump right to our committee reports. Community relations, you guys are up first.
Oh, so Fran and I reached out and started tapping into some of our resources we talked about at our last meeting. I had went on to the Teaching Tolerance website to order school materials to share with my colleagues, but also maybe to bring to the commission to show just kind of what's out there. And Fran, also at the Teaching Tolerance site, came up with an interesting, I'll let her.
Okay, it's helpful advice for setting up a human rights club in schools, and it's a wealth of material. And we just want to get it to people and talk about it and encourage it in our schools.
The second thing, I reached out also to Black Lives Matters. There's a local chapter here in Champaign-Urbana, and I read a little bit about their mission and sent an email. They said that sometimes it takes a while to get a response, but I just kind of reached out as just looking at the statistics that they posted on the website of how our African-American youth are being impacted. It's very scary to know just the level of the incarceration, and I'm speaking to the choir here. You guys know a lot about this already, so hopefully I will be able to make contact in the future and bring more information. I think, again, that's another organization in our community we might want to partner with.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Okay, moving on. I am the Criminal Justice Committee. Nothing to report as of yet. I will have something for you guys in the new year.
Yourself.
Yeah. I will have met with Alex by then, and we'll have charted a plan for this committee. So, ordinance enforcement. Pete.
Nothing to report at this point. Aisha and I have to meet up with Alex and sketch out a plan. So we will take that up in end of this month, beginning of next.
Excellent, excellent. And finally, training and development.
We haven't met yet. We are going to meet for sure prior to our next meeting. We've already set the time. But I think based on our conversations, it would be okay for you to go ahead and send Alex, us, a list of the organizations that you have or have not already reached out to. Like if you could just indicate, I've already reached out to these people, or these are people I was thinking of. Yeah, I think we could go ahead. I think it's probably too late to get anybody in here by January, but I could at least be sending out invitations with a little bit about who we are, what we're looking for, and get that going. I think based on our whole conversation, we can definitely start that. And I don't want to duplicate anybody you've already reached out to, or I want to reintroduce myself in a different capacity if you've already. So if you want to hand that list over, we'll take that off your plate. Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll start drafting the email and stuff like that, but I think it's just going to be kind of a generic, this is who we are, this is when we meet, this is what we're looking for. If interested, let me know all the possible dates that you would be able to present, and then I can organize, we can organize them from there based on month, maybe anything that's going on that month that aligns with
That'd be awesome.
their group, et cetera. So Like Black Lives Matter is a great February group to come, you know,
Yep.
and talk, so.
That's great. That's great. Excellent, thank you, guys. All right, Alex, we're turning the meeting over to you.
For EEO applications this cycle, we have a new application from Ideal Environmental Engineering. We previously reviewed this application, and the commission asked me to contact the applicant and find out a little bit more about the numbers. And I was able to meet with them. And after the conversation, I'll relay some of the information that I learned. I would like to recommend their certification for the period of 1 year, or any other time that the commission feels is appropriate. During the conversation, I spoke to Janelle Weber, who is the Director of Operations and the EEO designee for Ideal Environmental Engineering. In response to several questions, she represented to me that actually they currently employ one African American employee who did not make it onto the EEO workforce statistics as an oversight. He is an asbestos worker. Again, he is a part-time employee, and he would fall under the category of technical. He was hired in 2014 and is currently under consideration for a change of status to full-time employment. That is pending with the hierarchy within the organization. Second, I learned that the applicant company seasonally employs one student employee who would fall under the two, I believe, in some of the EEO documents there is a column for when an individual falls into two categories. Ours doesn't follow that standard, but he or she would fall in the two racial category, and works summer and fall. Third, I learned that the applicant is a small company with a very low turnover rate and therefore does not have an opportunity to recruit often. They have not also added positions. In 2015, the applicant company hired 0 employees and separated 1 employee, a Caucasian. In 2014, the applicant separated 0 employees and hired 1 employee, an African American. In 2013, the applicant separated 1 employee, a female architect, and hired 0 employees. In 2012, the applicant separated 0 employees and hired 1 employee, a female asbestos inspector and management planner. Fourth, I learned that the applicant normally does not advertise for positions given the infrequency of openings. They, again, have a very low turnover rate. And then finally, fifth, I learned that the last 3 openings that were filled were as follows. 1 female candidate who submitted an unsolicited resume and was subsequently hired. 1 African American male who was selected for employment following his participation in a training course that the applicant offered. And then finally, 1 Caucasian male who was selected for employment following his participation in a training course offered by the applicant. Normally, the applicant offers training courses that run anywhere between 5 and 18 students. And that's the end of the inquiry.
Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome. Would you like me to proceed on to the others?
Please.
Okay. And then in terms of renewal, we have J.H. Moore, who is also a very small company. They have currently 0% minority participation. They were previously certified for 2 years, and they're applying for renewal for 2 years. The HRO office recommends renewal at the 2-year level. The second renewal is Rice Tree Service. They are a very small company, 5 employees. They are applying for recertification at the 2-year level. They were previously certified at the 2-year level, and the HR office recommends recertification at the 2-year level.
Peter.
So I'll just move to approve Ideal Environmental Engineering for 1 year, J.H. Moore Incorporated for 2 years, and Rice Tree Service for 2 years.
Is there a second?
Yes, I second that.
Okay. Discussion.
And I think Alex's explanation of Ideal was great, and it sounds like they're doing as much as they can given the kind of hiring that they do. I'm glad to see they at least have some reasonable number of female employees, and for the other two, they're just below the line of where we really can do much of anything about them. So I think it's straightforward.
I think it's a good example of good faith effort. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
You know? Fran, sorry, or Lisa.
I just had a question. They know the answer. I just want to make double sure. When we have someone listed under minority, that is not someone who's appeared in any other column. That's a separate individual from anyone recognized as Latino or Asian or.
That's the
No.
No,
accumulation.
that's the accumulation
Oh.
of Latino, Asian, and African
Oh,
American.
I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
thinking of other.
Right.
Okay.
I believe it's
Okay,
also
then.
the inclusion of other.
Oh, yes.
The only one it doesn't include would be.
It's women.
Right. So, but if something does appear under other, that means other minority, not choosing. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks. I'm glad I asked.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Thank you. Thank you, Alex.
In terms of substantial contacts, I've been doing a lot of outreach so that there's visibility for the office. And we've been starting to get a lot more phone calls, and some of them just explaining to us concerns that they're having, and some of them do not fall within the protections of the Human Rights Ordinance. But they are very happy that we exist. They're also very happy that we're accessible. And I remind them that should they ever feel that they've experienced discrimination that does fall within our ordinance, that they're always welcome to call back. So you'll see in the substantial context, we've had a couple of changes. For example, one of our October 15 was thinking whether they wanted to file a charge. They indeed did file a charge. We also had a no jurisdiction on disability in November. We have a new one coming in. An intake is scheduled for later in the week. And then we had another call that doesn't fall within the categories of the Human Rights Ordinance, and therefore we have no jurisdiction. And I advised them of the reasoning, and that was the person that was recently very thankful that we exist. We're also getting some inquiries from places outside of Urbana, which means that they have some confidence in us, but of course I let them know that unless the action took place here, we lack jurisdiction. In terms of the monthly status report, one thing I would like to share, I don't know if many of you know this, but a couple of weeks ago, the City Council confirmed and appointed me as the Human Relations Officer. So
Yay!
Thank
All
you.
that hard work paid off.
Congratulations.
it took
Seriously.
glad
Glad you're here to stay.
it's exciting, and now I get to plan, and I can now work 40 hours a week, and so I'm excited.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. So I can clear out some of the things that I wanted to progress at a faster rate. One of the things is, so as you will see, we have a couple of our cases. Our first case is in a response phase. We're looking at the response of the respondent, the public accommodation. In the second case, I have concluded the interview phase, and I'm going to be moving into the determination phase, and it's my desire to close out that case very
Alex,
soon.
I don't think we have this, or at least it wasn't on the website.
Or the email.
I have it.
Oh, was it on the?
I went on the
Wasn't attached.
website.
It is on the website?
Okay.
Yeah.
It is.
Next to the last item.
Well, and scroll down from the EEO stats. It's not a separate form.
Oh, really? Oh,
If you
that's-
scroll down.
Oh, it's on
Monthly
a second
complaint-
page.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
That was the problem.
There you go.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And then the third case, we're having a settlement conversation, and we'll see how that turns out, especially over the next couple of weeks. The third case, we are at a determination stage. Hopefully that will be cleared out in the next 4 weeks. In 0903, it is a new case. We've already received the response from the respondent rather quickly. So I'm preparing a RFI, which is a request for information. 1004 is also the respondent has already filed their response, and I'm sending out an RFI for that case. And then we have the new case that I mentioned earlier that just came through in November, and respondent is expected to file by January 15th, I believe.
Excellent. Any questions? Thank you, Alex.
In terms of the budget report, I'll defer to Tony.
If everybody's ready, there's no big news.
I
There
was
there
gonna
there have
say.
been no changes since the last meeting.
Okay. We need to spend some money. Some training.
I did want to ask a question. And would that be
Please.
okay? I don't remember if I've ever printed out a copy of the task force's report, the IDOT. Some individuals have asked for hard copies so that they can sit by the fire and highlight. And so I've gone ahead and printed and bound a copy for you. I didn't do it in color only because I was trying to save some money. But if any of
Thank
you
you.
want it in color, you can request it, and I will prepare it for you in color. I want to speak a little bit to the report. It is an impressive report. Extraordinary work went into it. It is 2 volumes, actually, and they're bound together as 1 volume. The first volume is the executive summary and presentation by category. And the second volume is a statistical analysis with complex graphs. Those you might want to see in color. If you would like to see those in color, all you have to do is go to the task force website, and you can download it to your laptop or your iPad or whatever device you use, and be able to zoom in and look at those graphs. I cannot share. I cannot tell you what a wonderful process this has turned out to be, and the reception that we're already receiving. For example, we've had some other cities call in and say, how did you do it? How did you get a task force to be able to engage in this level of self-reflection in cooperation with the police department? And of course, the answer is the chair and the board members were very collaborative and very impartial and very rigorous in their inquiry. The final report was released on at the end of October 31st. So the public has it. And yes, on Monday, the chair, Peter Resnick, presented the report to the city council. The media was present and several members of the public were present. And it was very well done. There was incredible appreciation on the part of the city council, the mayor, and the public that the task force was formed, that the work was done, and that it was completed in a final report that is informative and instructive. Many members, at one point in the meeting, the public applauded the work of the task force and of the city council in commissioning it. So that was also wonderful to see. Of course, it was left with a desire for next steps and a desire for making these recommendations a reality. And the city council, of course, took that on and is going to begin their process moving forward. So I just kind of wanted to report that out to you and share with you the report. I also thought that it would be a good idea for us, perhaps, to engage in the conversation. Some of the recommendations in here may be work for us. There may be in these recommendations things that we may wish to urge the city council to focus on. There's maybe a particular recommendation that we could assist with. I know that the city, well, I shouldn't say that. I sense that the city council feels the weight of the work that is ahead of them, and should any of the other commissions be able to help, that would be a wonderful thing. I'm going to also print it for the Civilian Police Review Board. and ask them to review it. There may be some places there where they can be of assistance to the city council and to the Human Rights Commission. So,
Thank you. Peter?
Can you sum it up, Pete?
In 3 sentences or less. I do encourage you to give a look through the recommendations, and the executive summary, I think, will help you quite a bit. The long and the short of it is, it's not surprising that when we did the analysis, the numbers are what they are, that there's a disproportionate number of stops. There's a great deal of evidence that a lot of that disparity is due to patterns of policing. That is because of the presence in neighborhoods which are predominantly African American, they end up doing more stops. There's a long discussion about whether doing those stops is useful. And there's not a whole lot of data indicating that there is, but there's not a whole lot of data about figuring out whether doing generalized stops is useful. There is some indication of bias. We did a couple of analyses. There's this veil of darkness analysis where you take different times of year where it would be at the same time of day, dark or light, depending on the different time of year. And there is less of a disparity, although not a huge amount less of a disparity when it's dark outside, which indicates at least some possibility for bias. So we go through a bunch of recommendations. We do quite a bit of analysis and research in the report. As Alex said, I think our commission, along with everybody else, continuing to someone called me from the task force and said, "So what's next?" And I said, "Well, we're done. The task force has completed its work." But the public, different commissions, everybody needs to continue to put pressure on the council and the mayor and the police department to act on this. I forget whether it's an FDR quote or a Lincoln quote about needing pressure in order to make me do the right thing. And I forget it, very much a paraphrase, but there are all sorts of political considerations, and being able to point and say, the public is telling me I need to do this, my commissions are telling me I need to do this, is a way to get these things moving. And so I think it's important for us to go through the report, find things that we think we can push the council on, things that we can assist with, and keep reminding them that those things need to be done. So I'm happy with the outcome. As I said to the council last night, I try and avoid reading the comments section at the bottom of the News Gazette articles on the website. I did take the editorial board to task for some rather impressive misunderstandings of the facts that they had, and tried to correct those in my presentation. If you watch the city council meeting, you can look for those as well. But in any event, I hope it's useful. I really feel that we've done as much work as a volunteer group could possibly do, and given folks a good deal to chew on. And now, next step is just to start implementing. So, thank you, Alex, for all of your work, the work of the staff, and the work of the commission, of the task force itself, and the police department has been just phenomenal on this. So, quite pleased.
Thank you, Pete.
Can we, real quick, are we going to try to, as a group, commit to a date, time for maybe a letter from, a consolidated letter from this commission to council with bullet points as to what our recommendations are? Because, I mean, I think that was one of the strategies you were mentioning, but I don't hear us committing to a deadline of doing that and kind of putting it on our task list. So can we maybe do that?
I think that's something we can do by next meeting. I would prefer if someone else were the pen holder for the writing of this letter, but I am glad to assist and point to all of the right places in the report to say, here is what we really need to have the council take on. So I'm glad to help with that, but if someone would volunteer to actually do the writing, that'd be great.
Is this something that belongs under more of a specific committee of ours?
Oh,
Then
that's a
another?
good question.
And maybe, I mean, I think we should all submit ideas, but in regards to that, I don't know.
And I don't know, Alex, do you feel like this is a community relations kind of task and something that one of the two of you should take
I
on?
was just going to say that it does seem to be in that area. I'm not experienced with writing in this particular context, but I am experienced with writing, so I always have my pen in my hand.
Will help.
So, and if, Fran, if you're going to take it up so we don't get into the majority of a quorum problem, I'm glad to meet up with you and walk you through the pieces of the report, although Alex can probably do just as well. And the as far as the form of the, it's basically a letter, and probably will take the form of a resolution of the commission to, ask the city council to implement such and so with our assistance on such and such.
Well, you've done a great job so far being the face of this this report and that commission's work, and so I'm happy to have you advise me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I do have a question. Some of the recommendations are controversial. One of the recommendations is a moratorium on cannabis. Another one of the recommendations. So I was wondering if you wanted or needed discussion at any point in time. That, of course, would prolong the timeline, but we could do much simpler, as you mentioned, Peter. I don't know the answer to my question. I just wanted to.
What exactly is the mission of this statement? Are we commenting on the?
I think so. I mean,
We've
I think
already
the
done
actual
that to
work
some
on whether or
extent.
not, because I think a moratorium on cannabis is something that we would actually need to research. Are there anybody else out there doing it? Has it been effective? How do we approach the community on that? How do we approach the police on that? I think the how-to, the nitty-gritty, is 2 steps away. I think the first step is making a statement, let's move forward, here's some very, very specific areas that further research could be done, assignment of committees to do that research, here's where we can lend a hand and how. I think it needs to be that simple to begin with, and then we let those other committees that come out of that recommendation, hopefully the council takes it, convenes an
This is-
additional task force or whatever they seem fit. Maybe the response is there's 3 task force maybe, and a representative from each of different commissions or different,
Right,
sits
that's
on
not
those,
our
whatever.
decision,
That's
though.
not our decision, so I think we just make a general
We are
blanket.
kind of we've already performed this many times, and one
Yeah.
is the example is with the taxi licensing issue, where we saw something that we knew was awry from a human relations perspective, and we advised the council. And I would say to serve that for that purpose is one of the things that we're going to offer, and perhaps others as well.
So I like Kevin's suggestion, and I would add on that maybe the way to do this is divide it into 2 parts of the therefore resolved bits. One part, I think, is simple, which is the commission should endorse the report. And endorse taking on the recommendations. Most of the recommendations are for city council, for the police department, et cetera.
Endorse and thank. I think it's really important to publicly thank the task force as well.
I think that would be great. The other part can be, I think, picking out particular items that we think as a commission we can contribute to. So for instance, the moratorium on cannabis ticketing during traffic stops, I don't think we have much to do with that one. We
Yeah.
might be able to make recommendations from a discrimination point of view or training point of view. But I think that's really not one of the ones that we're going to take on as that's a task we really need to be involved in. So I think what you might do up front, and I'm, again, happy to help walk through this, is sort of make a list of what we think, and maybe the committee can do this, make a list of what the committee thinks the commission as a whole could take on as tasks. And then in the resolution that we bring to the floor next month, it would have resolved, we endorse the report, resolve, therefore, A, we endorse the report, B, we recommend to the city council that the commission be tasked with doing such and so, or doing such and such, or that the commission be asked for advice and counsel for doing X, Y, or Z.
Are we looking for a draft by the next time we meet, or a finished product?
I think at least a draft by the I don't. We may or may not be able to approve it next time we meet, but I think something to work with, and then if it requires a second go around, then in February we'll be able to approve a resolution.
Okay, and is it kosher? I'm funny that I should be asking that. Is it kosher that I can solicit ideas from individual members of the committee without
Yes.
worrying about?
Just don't send to
Public.
all and
Right.
reply all.
Right.
You can send to all, but we shouldn't reply, but too many
No,
people
no,
get-
I'm not going to
yeah.
even send. to
Yeah,
all.
it gets too complicated and muddy.
Right, I just want to.
Yeah.
Right.
But
The key
so-
is that we ought not be able to, as a group, decide something outside of public view.
Thank you.
Right, and
But
we won't.
Or
You know,
even hold a discussion.
But just for,
Right. Quite
Sense of
often, I
what
know
people
much
are
more
thinking.
common in Champaign than over here, but they will have what they call the 2x2 meetings, where they will have city council come two at a time to meet with staff about a particular topic, to be briefed, to get questions answered, but because it's only 2x2, they can't possibly coordinate and make a decision altogether outside of public view.
Pete, I'm glad you brought up what we could participate in. Just briefly looking, when you look at section 4, that's all us.
Yep.
So when we get a little more time to delve into this, I so can see this. So many of these things can be discussed, so thanks for pointing that out. I do like that idea of what we can do as well.
And Fran, I'm going to email you some templates for the resolution formats and things like that you could use as a raw material.
okay, thank you.
Excellent. Anything else?
I also wanted to bring you guys up to speed on two items. The first is there is three items. The first is there is a racial taboo movie that I don't know if you've heard about, that's being introduced in the community, and I think it is coming out of the coalition group in Champaign, and there was a screening of it to individuals, and afterwards they have a conversation about race, and the movie helps the audience participants have a conversation about race without awkwardness or the tension of getting it wrong, and kind of encourages them to just go into the conversation. And there's some moderation going on of the conversation. And there's been some positive response. There's now been an additional showing. I think it happened at one of the schools, either Urbana or at Centennial. Okay. And I think one of the principals hosted it. I think the mayor of both cities attended. They both enjoyed the presentation and the discussion. There is some momentum building around it. So if you are invited or you see it advertised anywhere, I would recommend you consider attending to contribute your wisdom and to engage in the dialogue, but also to learn from the participants. The one I went to was almost county-wide stakeholders. So there was a judge there, some pastors, all of the chiefs of police, some heads of nonprofit organizations. And so it was a pretty sophisticated group, and we had a sophisticated conversation about race relations. And I thought it was very profitable. So I do want to put that on your radar. I think the goal is to have more of these, and to perhaps, and I use the word perhaps because I'm not sure what the trajectory is going to be, to perhaps achieve some kind of critical mass of discussions and support some profitable conversations around race. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. The second thing that I wanted to alert you to is the annual Martin Luther King celebration is going to happen Friday, January 15th, and it's going to be in a new venue. It's always been, I guess, at the Garden Hills Hotel. That is not the case this year. Please tell your friends and loved ones.
Holiday Inn, that's right, I
Okay.
remember that.
This year, it will be at the brand-new, gorgeous, state-of-the-art Student Union Center at Parkland. It's all glass on two sides, very modern, chic furniture. It's going to be a very nice event. I believe that the award recipients are being announced either today or tomorrow. And we have an outstanding presenter that I think I mentioned to you before, was the previous librarian for the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library in Springfield, and she will be coming and reenacting Harriet Tubman before the eyes of the attendees, and she will answer questions after the formal presentation during the reception portion that anyone might have, including children, of Harriet Tubman, and she knows her material. So we're very, very honored that she accepted our invitation. So if you are able to make it, please come. It will start at 5. Is it 4?
Or it has been 4.
Yes, you're 4, and then there's a reception at 5. It's free, and it would be wonderful to have the commission present. That's all I have.
Great. Any other announcements? Okay. Happy New Year. Happy holidays, everybody. See you in 2016.
Oh, my God.